Consider this. What happens when the most talked about woman in the world, a former duchess who left the royal family amid scandals and high-profile interviews, steps onto a platform where every word should carry weight, intelligence, and conviction? What if, instead of brilliance and triumph, audiences are met with emptiness? And what if that emptiness becomes so glaring that even a respected global platform begins to regret believing the myth surrounding Meghan Markle's name? Today, we will discuss a failure so loud and shameful that it is being downplayed, even though the process itself resembled a quiet catastrophe that couldn't be concealed. Bloomberg considered Meghan Markle a desirable guest and invited her onto Emily Chang's podcast, anticipating that her high-profile name, connections to the royal family, and global fame would guarantee success. The expectation was an elegant and intellectual conversation, capable of impressing a business audience and adding glamour to the platform. However, reality proved different. Instead, the conversation was so unusual that it bewildered insiders who, according to people working behind the scenes, realized that the Bloomberg team had seriously miscalculated. From the outset, the atmosphere was lackluster. Meghan arrived at the studio with a flawless appearance, perfect posture, an elegant outfit, and her customary smile. But as soon as she began to speak, everything fell apart. The problem wasn't that she said anything outrageous, but that she said absolutely nothing of substance. Viewers expecting deep analysis or cutting-edge ideas were met with vague phrases and PR fluff. Instead of a real interview, it felt more like a pre-prepared speech lacking depth, which for Bloomberg, known for its sharp content, intellectual rigor, and business discussions, was a disaster. Reportedly, one employee bluntly stated she ruined the show, expressing sheer professional disappointment. Instead of an engaging guest who could elevate the episode, Meghan's presence turned it into a bland and awkward PR stunt. For Bloomberg, a platform where CEOs, heads of state, and eminent minds converge, such a failure is not just disheartening, but casts a shadow on the brand. Behind the scenes, even before the cameras were turned off, staff were whispering about their concerns, and the atmosphere in the control room was tense. Instead of approving nods or quiet admiration, there were raised eyebrows and silent shrugs. One insider described the entire event as a fizzle from start to finish. Meghan didn't bring spark or charisma, just weight, and not in a good way. The weight of labored answers, calculated expressions, and superficial remarks, lacking directness and sincerity. Just a familiar routine that's starting to become tiresome. It wasn't just the Bloomberg team who noticed. Viewers also reacted strongly on social media, expressing confusion and indifference. Users questioned, why was she even there? While others compared the interview to a beauty pageant contestant answering complex questions using a miscongeniality filter. The reality is that when an audience discusses a star guest's robot-like behavior and lack of interest, it's not just a misstep, it's a red flag. Bloomberg also didn't see the expected ratings boost. The data was disappointing. For a platform that measures success in numbers and influence, this was a financial and reputational setback. Meghan was expected to attract attention and create momentum. But after the buzz died down, it became clear that she hadn't moved the needle and may have even sent it in the wrong direction. The contrast exacerbated the situation. Bloomberg has always invited individuals who command genuine respect, whose words make the room listen, challenge the status quo, and offer bold ideas. Meghan, on the other hand, reiterated tired platitudes about being misunderstood, hinted at vague injustices, cloaking everything in a Hollywood gloss that viewers have seen too often. A lack of spark and authenticity, just polished, empty showmanship trying to sell a brand that fewer and fewer people are interested in buying. The Meghan Markle brand is beginning to run out of steam, and even platforms that previously rolled out the red carpet are gradually backing away. When the focus shifts from content to managing the fallout from its presentation, the costs begin to outweigh the benefits, something Bloomberg learned the hard way. It wasn't just the lackluster performance that caused discontent, but the fact that Meghan seemed completely out of step with what Bloomberg represents, a platform built on authority, data, and real analysis. The expectation was for a guest to contribute something meaningful, but Meghan gave the impression of someone more interested in enhancing her image than in engaging in genuine dialogue. The whole situation resembled an attempt to satisfy vanity rather than find a beneficial offering, and that perception had consequences. Producers began to question the wisdom of inviting her. Some staff reportedly claimed that red flags were raised at an early stage, but the invitation still went ahead due to her star power, under the assumption that Meghan's name alone would be enough. However, as it turned out, name recognition without substance is no longer enough, especially in the demanding space of the Bloomberg audience. The irony is that Meghan clearly expected the opposite: admiration, perhaps even reverence. Instead, she received only polite professionalism, followed by behind-the-scenes regret. Instead of commanding the room's attention, she drained its energy. One staff member accurately summarized it: she didn't just fail to deliver, she made it all about herself. This is a recurring theme in all of Meghan's media appearances. What should be a discussion turns into a monologue, and what should be informative becomes a promotional pitch. This isn't the first time this pattern has repeated itself, like the failed deal with Spotify, where executives later openly mocked her for a lack of creativity. A sense of being wronged, both by executives and viewers, has become commonplace. The cycle repeats: big hype, brilliant success, and then silence, or worse, disappointment. Meghan continues to receive high-profile invitations, but increasingly leaves behind only chaos. This is what Bloomberg is now grappling with, and it's not just one bad segment, but a blow to their editorial vision. When a publication known for its insight invites someone who fails so spectacularly, it doesn't go unnoticed. Other media companies are watching, and the conclusion many are drawing is simple: Meghan is no longer a reliable option. She represents a risk. Part of the negative reaction stems from predictability. Meghan reverted to her usual themes: being misunderstood, unfairly judged, and trying to stand out from the crowd. But it all felt like a rehash. Viewers had heard it all before and didn't buy it this time. A lack of spark or change in the narrative, just the same repackaged victimhood dressed in designer clothes and served with detachment. To make matters worse, the interview didn't even touch upon the royal family. Bloomberg invited her to discuss global issues, expecting a thoughtful voice capable of speaking on current topics. Instead, what they got felt like a missed opportunity. The entire segment was about Meghan, her appearance, her answers, the aura she created. The topic, the discussion, all of it took a back seat. Only she mattered. Such self-focus might be appropriate on entertainment platforms, but in serious media spaces it backfires, because people are looking for truth, clarity, and substantive information, which Meghan didn't bring. The consequences weren't just internal. Viewers were vocal in their comments. Social media criticized her performance, memes mocking her, aloofness spread. The collective reaction wasn't anger, but boredom, which in the media world is far worse. The final nail in the coffin was the ensuing silence. Bloomberg didn't issue a statement, didn't defend the segment, didn't attempt to repair the PR damage. And that silence spoke louder than any press release. Insiders began to leak details, confirming the public's premonition. Bloomberg considered what had happened a mistake, not just a singular misstep, but a reputational stain that revealed a deeper problem. Meghan Markle no longer benefits the venues she appears on. This moment didn't happen in a vacuum. It added to a growing list of platforms left dissatisfied after working with her, from Oprah to Spotify and Netflix. This pattern, involving a grand launch, high expectations, carefully crafted branding, and then a slow rollback and loss of audience interest, is hard to ignore. Now it's not even a cause for discussion. It's just an expectation. And this is where the real danger lies. When someone's brand becomes synonymous with an unsatisfactory outcome, people stop paying attention and the media stops calling. The criticism towards Bloomberg was made even more painful by its publicity. Media critics picked it up, analysts began to analyze. Even competing platforms used it as a cautionary tale. Meghan lost the trust not just of one publication, but of a whole array of media outlets. Bloomberg isn't a gossip blog, it's a serious, globally respected organization. If they regret giving her a seat at the table, it sends a loud message to the entire industry. The financial side also failed to meet expectations. Television networks invest in guests like Meghan, expecting a return in the form of increased viewership, boosted engagement, and interest from advertisers with big budgets. None of this materialized. The buzz died down immediately. Excerpts from the interview left virtually no trace online. Viewers didn't share them, critics didn't praise them. The data was flat, a sluggish level line on the graph, which in the media space, where everything revolves around analytics, spells failure. Behind the scenes, producers began to take stock, not just of the episode itself, but of Meghan herself. One person close to the situation reportedly said, "We thought we were getting a cultural icon, but instead we got a walking press release." This phrase perfectly captured the situation. Meghan came to Bloomberg not with the intention of having a dialogue, but with the intention of selling herself, and people saw right through it. Public reaction only compounded the hurt. Social media users, many of whom once supported Meghan in the early days of her royal battles, now seemed tired. The overall feeling was not hatred, but fatigue from the same tired performance. Rehearsed vulnerability, vague grievances, contradictions, constant attempts to paint her story in a more sympathetic light, while avoiding accountability. At some point, this story simply stops working, and now the industry is adjusting. Behind closed doors, editorial boards are revising future invitations, and booking departments are weighing the risks. Is inviting Meghan Markle worth it, or is it just a guaranteed headache associated with declining popularity? For many, the answer is becoming clearer. Even within royal circles, the reaction was quiet and knowing. Meghan's choices continue to distance her from any sense of royal dignity. Every platform she steps onto becomes her personal stage, not for service, not for dialogue, but for performance. She isn't upholding the legacy of the family she joined through marriage, but gradually dismantling it, one headline at a time. Bloomberg didn't just regret the failed interview. They regretted believing in a myth that no longer holds power. Meghan's sparkle has faded, leaving behind only a carefully packaged brand that doesn't deliver.